It was really exciting. If you haven't seen it, I would say cut to the last hour and a half of the stream VOD from last night and just be absolutely blown away about the roller coaster that I went on. It was pretty fucking crazy. All right, let's just do them. Ace 3. We decide to raise in the low jack, get called in the cutoff, and the big blind. Flop comes off 10-8 jack, does nothing really special. We decide to check it because three-way pot, plus our ace is going to improve enough, and there's no real reason to bluff here. It's very early in the tournament. Three comes off on the turn here, and I may have gotten a little bit greedy because I decided that in this scenario there's a lot more draws than good hands, so I decided to actually play my three for value and as for protection, which I don't really recommend. It is fourth pair, but in all honesty, I feel like if somebody has a 10 here, they're going to call. They're also going to call with nines. I know no one has a jack, so I'm really just kind of betting against the fact that people don't really have anything yet because this board is so draw heavy and there's no real action going on. And, we do get called behind, which is probably the worst scenario. But again, it just doesn't seem to me. It's far more likely that the player behind me has, two spades or has king queen or, I mean, even king queen is unlikely because he should be three betting. A lot of people don't this early in the tournament with king queen in the cutoff when raised from the low jack. But it could just be a nine, like something like, I don't know, ace nine suited or something like that. So a hand, that you don't want to fold, but you absolutely, don't have any showdown value. And I think I had the best hand actually, but it's just an interesting hand that I want to point out that it's never too early to start being a dick and charging people for draws. Really, I just you never really want to think, oh well, this isn't the time for that in the tournament. You know, I picked up a nice little pot here, man. Why not? If the situation presents itself, why not? 10-8 offsuit. We see a raise out of first and a call and a call and a call. So I call. And we're kind of in that mid-stack range in this point in the tournament where we're doing pretty good, but the blinds are going to go up soon. And we're really going to need to have something happen. So the blinds, I think, are like 25K or something like that. I mean, what are the blinds here? Yeah, the blinds are 12 and 25,000. So I kind of need to make something happen. We are deep in this tournament, but this is the one of the bounty builder tournaments that you start out with a million chips. So the blinds are going to go up to 30K next hand, and we're going to get cut down pretty good, or not next hand, but within the next couple minutes. So this is kind of like playing the Broadway cards with 25 big blinds in early position because one pair is better than anything. So here we're just kind of looking to flop some good equity and play for bounties. We do flop the world. There's 5 players in the pot, but obviously we're never going to be folding here. The player, it checks all the way around to the player in the cutoff, and he decides to go ahead and bet. Interesting thing here that I didn't point out yesterday is that this is the position of power. If you want to bluff, I think the cutoff in this spot exactly is the position of power. Because if it checks all the way to the button and then I bluff at it, it looks pretty weak. So at the time, I should have considered betting something here. The problem is that if somebody had an ace, they would have already bet. So I think this board is so bad to try to make my hand look like a bluff that I wasn't even considering it. And I think I'm right. I have to let something else happen. But luckily, this player took the position of power and bluffed. And this is a pretty strong bluff. The problem with it is it's too big and it's too small. If he had bet 4.5, 5 big blinds, kind of looks like a 10 or an ace. If he had bet 11 or 12 blinds, it kind of looks like an ace. 10 doesn't really do that. But betting this half pot bet, this is the lazy man's bluff. This is like, oh, there's a button that says I can bet half pot. Click. Like, that's not the thing to do. So And also, you got to see it leaves him with one pot size bet behind, so he's only going to have one move left. And I recognized that before I called it. I did just call it, of course, and the turn comes off a 4, and he checks. There's literally 0 point in me betting. He has less than a pot size bet behind. The only bet is all in. I decide to go ahead and check. The river comes off, and he does jam all in, and of course we snap call, and he shows that he had a total airball bluff, just a backdoor flush and straight draw on the flop. It's not the worst bluffing hand because he does block hands like 10-9 and ace 9, I guess. I guess those are the bluffs. Or those are the value-y hands that kind of would bet here. Also hands like queen 10, ace queen I don't think so much because he would have gotten a 3-bet pre-flop out of a stack like that after those calls. But if I'm going to bluff here, if I'm going to start on the flop, I'm usually not going to do that. I'm probably going to have a long shotter, like a queen jack or a king queen or something like that, where I can fill a gut shot and make a strong hand as a backup plan. But jamming this river, it is your only move, but it's kind of silly after you get called in the flop. You're really not going to get anything that called me on the flop here. Like, what calls that can possibly fold the river? I don't know. Pocket nines maybe, but I think you just give it up on the flop. You know, whatever. But it was a home game, Grip's home game, which, by the way, for the record, plays like a fucking dumpster fire. It was a lot of fun, but I basically poured 3 buy-ins into that like I was dropping water out of a fucking glass. Just whoop. But it was fun, and I'll be playing it again. All right. Aces, baby. Oh, go back. What did I do? I don't really know. The aces don't really make an impression on me, so I never know why I end up in this scenario. 2.5 big blinds. We get 3-bet. Goes all the way around. I decide to just call. I only have 33 blinds left, so does he. So these are near starting stacks. Flop comes off king, queen, 3. We decide to check. Player bets 9 big blinds. This is the lazy bluff again. I decide just to rip it. Because I'm trying to make it look like I am so full of crap. And I think there is a good chance that our opponent here has a pair. But there's also a lot of draws he can have, 10 jack, things like that. And if that's the case, let's just go ahead and get the money in. So in game, it made a lot of sense to me. And he just had top pair. And the fact that this player 3-bet me after I opened in first, he 3-bets me in second. It's kind of makes a good case for him having ace-king. But it really looks a lot more like kings and queens. But this buy-in was just too low. I'm not going to sit there and see monsters under the bed for $5. So I think check jamming is fine. Because if he has anything, he will call. Obviously demonstrated by the king-jack. Obviously, this wasn't the best play in the world by this guy. But creative. Ace-8 offsuit on the button. We go ahead and make a raise. See a call on the big blind. Flop the ace. That's cool. I decided to go ahead and just c-bet normally. We do get called. Deuce on the hearts on the turn. Interesting. I go check, check. This is an interesting hand because the river kind of stopped me from being more aggressive. Because now I have so much more showdown, and I said it in-game that this player can have all the 2 pairs. I actually thought this was a friend of the stream. We actually were looking at the wrong table. And all the names were covered, so I didn't know who it was. But it wasn't, shout out to Punisher. He was on a different table. So the 8 kind of saved me. But also, I don't know how aggressive I would have been. So the river he leads out for half pot. This is a pretty much, when it comes out of nowhere, this is kind of a value bet. It can also be a blocker bet, but it seems more like a value bet. Now, if I didn't have the 8, I may have raised here because I really felt like I was up against 2 pair a lot. My problem was I didn't know if it was king jack or if it was like ace jack. I mean, ace jack's really the only hand that I lose to here because I believe ace king 3-bets pre. So I was kind of torn, and I said it at the time. This is either ace jack or king jack. And I don't feel great about it. It could also be hands like Jack 8, I guess. That kind of picked something up and, went with it on the river. So I wasn't really a fan of a flush. So I did just go ahead and call it, kind of, taking my chances. And it was ace jack. And I think if I don't hit the 8, when he leads the river, I'm going to raise. And I'm going to raise pretty damn big. So this is one where my hand improving stopped me from bluffing, which would have worked, I think. I think this player was very scared of the flush, was very scared of ace king. I could have been pot controlling on the turn with ace king. I could just have it nutted, right, with the ace king, with the king of hearts. And I would definitely raise the river here with all those. That being said, I don't know if players do fold at this blind level for bluffs in this buy-in tournament, but I feel like I could have gotten the fold here. I really do. Oh well, this is a tournament that we ended up going really far in, and I think the decision's close. I don't think he played anything wrong. I think the 3-bet pre-flop, I thought about it last night, and I thought it might have made sense to 3-bet pre-flop, but you know what? Let's look it up. Because I was saying that I want to 3-bet this pre-flop from the big blind because it's not suited, but I wasn't 100% sure if that's actually the correct thing to do, GTO. So let's go ahead and look it up in the tools here. So we're going to call it at about 50 big blinds, right? I think we're going to have to use 40 or 60. So the idea is, should he raise here from the big blinds? So we're going to call it 40 big blinds. The position is the big blind versus a raise from the button. Versus a raise from the button. Ace Jack offsuit should 3-bet 100%, or suited should 3-bet 100% of the time. Ace Jack offsuit, shockingly, for 40 big blinds versus the button open. So, and here's the thing, I should be opening on this button for 2.5x. Ace Jack offsuit is a jam from the big blind for 40 big blinds. That's a thing I didn't know. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Versus a perfect GTO opening range. 60 big blinds. Ace Jack off is a 3-bet. So this hand, the player starts with about 50. So if it's 100% 3-bet at 60 and 100% jam at 40, let's go 50-50 when he's at 50. So if at 50 big blinds, he's at about half and half. Half the time you're supposed to jam all in, and the other half the time you're supposed to 3-bet reasonably. I get the idea for jamming all in. I do. Because if you 3-bet here, right, and make it, what are you going to make it? 9 big blinds because you're out of position? If the player calls you, you're kind of screwed if you don't improve. But in this exact instance, if he had 3-bet and then led the flop, I don't know if I'm folding a pair of aces right away. The deuce of hearts on the turn is going to slow us both down. And then he can bet small on the river. And when I jam, I think you're pretty confident to call off with the ace jack because I think the ace king would 3-bet would 3-bet the flop. I also think a flush draw doesn't really exist here because unless you have exactly king queen or king 10 or even king 10 should fold. So king queen or king queen of hearts is really the only one because I think the queen 10 or queen or king 10 would fold pre-suited. I know they're supposed to. I don't know what players do in the actual world, but that's still not very many hands. It's only 3 hands instead of 1 hand that really beats us here that can call on the flop. So, yeah, I think this is one where the dude's supposed to get it all, and that 3-bet should have done it because the 3-bet puts an extra on this flop. It puts like an extra 14 or 15 blinds in this pot. You know what I mean? So, because if he raises from my 2.5 to like 9 or even let's say 8.5, right? Which is proper. 3 times plus a blind. So let's make it 8. You know what I'm saying? That's still an extra 5.5 blinds per. That means this pot is now 17.5 blinds. And we have 50 and he has 44. On this flop, if he bets 6, right? I'm going to call that for sure. That puts about 29 and a half blinds in the pot. We go to the turn, and he's got about a little better than a pot size bet left. On the turn, we go check, check. And on the river, he's got about a pot size bet left. When I hit this 8-man, he can just actually jam it into my face. But I think what I would do is I would use the small bet to get a bluff, because this board is so rife for bluffing. I mean, there's, a lot of instances where I can have great two pairs. But I think ace jack here is my minimum in the big blind to go broke. So I think if I was him, having about 30 blinds left and about 30 in the pot at that point, I would probably bet like 5 big blinds, maybe less, maybe 4, and then just get jammed on. I would jam on it. I mean, because I should. I might raise it. I might raise like 5 or 4 big blinds, but that's what I would do. So if he had just made a standard like river bluff for like, I mean, I guess all in is the jam. I can't fold really, because I think this hand is my minimum to call it on the river. Yeah. With a 3-bet pre-flop, maybe I think differently. I think about the ace-king or the ace-jack. But then again, ace-queen 3-bets as well. Ace-queen has the same betting pattern as ace-jack pre-flop from the big blind at 40 big blinds. Huh. Interesting hand. It was a lot more to it than I initially thought. All right, moving on. Pocket duckies. We decided to go ahead and just min open. It's getting a little sketchy in this tournament. This is the one we went deep in. We're kind of low on blinds, but we're okay. We're actually still okay in this tournament. I think this is that tournament. No, this is another one that it's early. It's close to the start. Okay. So it's close to the start. I'm looking to get the money in, but I don't want to just like throw it in with deuces all in for no reason. So I make it open on the button, and I do get called by the big blind. And he checks, and I decide just to check it back because my deuces will win sometimes, and there's no real point in bluffing here. But then on the turn, we go ahead and spike the deuce, the old Ryan DePaulo move. And he bets out 3 big blinds into us. I decide to go ahead and call, obviously. And I already said I'm not folding any river. Obviously, the 6 is great for me. The question is, how do we get the most? And I think it was betting stupidly. The half pot bet, a little bit less. This is about a blind less than half pot. And the player does call. And he called us with top pair. So could we have gotten it all on the turn? Maybe. But we got a double up pretty much here, right? I mean, we got like a 2/3 increase to our stack. So I don't mind it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's basically a rebuy, and I saved another buy-in. So I think it's possible to make more, but this player took a very long time to call, so I may have pushed it right to the limit with my value bet on the river with the full house, because he only has 1 pair. He should be calling more often, but I think in practice, players don't, especially at this level. All right. Pocket J's. I just decided to defend here because we were very deep, and this player was my problem. If I 3-bet here and this guy calls, right? Like, let's say I make it 8 big blinds. This guy calls, and then this guy jams, because he's not just going to call and leave himself with like 7 blinds, right? Then what do? Do I just call it, and now the original raiser rejams on me, and now I have to fold? Or do I jam to ISO? So it's a very sticky situation, so I decided just to call because of this stack. This stack should never be calling here. He should only be jamming all in. Checks around flop. I decided to go ahead and bet the turn for value. I don't think anybody has a queen very often. And they fold. And this is one where nobody really had anything, but people get afraid of the overcard. And this is a situation I don't understand why you would be. The original raiser didn't even bet. Hey, what's up, Pocket? How you doing, my man? Good to see you, bro. Thanks for saying hey. I do see the other people here. Thanks for coming out. I'm not going to call you out. But we got some of the regulars here. So yeah, so this is one where I think it's just important to bet, and I want to bet bigger because there are, heart draws. So I just want to charge them, but I really don't think there's a queen here ever. I really don't. So that's all. Simple little hand, but I think it merits the big bet on the turn rather than a small bet, because all we're doing with a small bet is pot building versus a draw, And I think that's a mistake at that stage of the tournament. All right. Oh, I remember this one. This one's big. Or it's not big, but it's interesting. So it's a min raise from a shorter stack. We decide to go ahead and defend. The player bets 2.5, which is not an awful bet. It's not quite right. Like, I think 2 big blinds would have been fine. But it's not a big deal. He doesn't have that many chips. Maybe he wants to get the money in. I don't know. Having an ace, though, I really can't fold. And I wanted to run this one as well. So the effective stack is... what do we say it was here? The effective stack is 19, let's say. Yeah. So we're going to call it at 20. So what we're doing is we're looking at what we're supposed to do versus the effective stack. So we're in the big blind, right? The effective stack is about 20 versus a raise from under the gun +1. With ace-7 offsuit, what are we supposed to do? Call 100% of the time. Cool. Now, this is because the razor to under the gun will have a range that we can defend versus with the ace-7. So the call is absolutely, or that's ace-7 suited. Where's the ace-7 offsuit? The ace-7 offsuit actually 3-bets. So it 3-bets about 1/3 of the time, calls 2/3 of the time. Maybe I should have 3-bet it, but the player is coming at, this isn't the exact dynamic. Like if he had 60 and I had 20, I would probably 3-bet it. But in the reverse dynamic where we're playing off his effective stack and we're the big stack, I think it looks too suspicious to 3-bet, meaning that we're going to look weaker than we are. So I decided to go ahead and just call. He bets the flop. It's a reasonable bet. There's only about 10 big blinds left. I check. He now bets all in. Looking back on this, this is kind of... it seems like a fold now, but at the time it didn't for some reason, and I wanted to go through it and see why. So with 20 big blinds from... This is his position we're doing now. From under the gun +1, raising first in, what are all the hands that he has here? So he has all the suited aces down to ace-3. He has hands down to ace-9. And he has all these other hands, which we are absolutely crushing. All these other hands in the supposed range, except for deuces, or he doesn't even have deuces, except for 8s. So basically, these hands with an ace, these hands with an ace. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 9s, 10s, jacks, queens, kings, aces. I don't think that's the case here. But there is a case for a guy having kings and deciding just to go kings or queens, and jacks too, I guess, and deciding to just go with it because he's so short. So that is a factor. But there's so many more combinations, like 2/3 of his range we beat. And when 2/3 of the time we're going to beat somebody's range, I think this merits a call. This is one of those ones where you'd have to have a very player-specific read. But because he has so few chips, like he's overbet jamming the turn, and you could say, well, he just has a good ace. Not so much, you know what I'm saying? Because remember, these are all the combinations of hands he should have raising from there, but we don't know what he's doing. A lot of players will have pocket 4s, 5s, 3s, and deuces here and just lose their fucking mind. You know what I'm saying? They can also have, the ace-deuce suited, which we beat. They can have hands like, club draws and weird stuff. I mean, believe it or not, people will raise the king, queen of clubs and just go for it here. And all those hands, should be raising and they should be in there. So looking back, I was thinking about this one right before I went to sleep last night. Stupid, I know, but before I go to bed, I'll kind of run through a few hands in my head, as I'm putting my head on the pillow. And it's just kind of calming if my brain's racing too much. And this was one that was kind of rolling around in my head, and I was thinking, was that really a big mistake or was it a small mistake? I actually don't think it is a mistake. I think versus a solver, the call here is good because I'm going to win more than 1/3 of the time. I think I'm going to win here 2/3 of the time with this betting pattern. I really do. And plus, versus, the deck even tells me, versus the deck, I'm 82% to win, so we're never supposed to fold here. I absolutely like the call, and he could only make big moves because I was a big stack. He happened to have ace-king in this specific instance, but like I said, 1/3 of the time I think he's going to beat me. The other 2/3 he's not, and that's just straight math. you're not going to flop your best pair when you have two unpaired cards in your hand 66% of the time. You know what I mean? You're only going to flop it about a third of the time. And the fact that we have an ace cuts him down to even less, you know? So I actually like this hand, and I'm glad I didn't fold. I know I lost the hand, but I'm not trying to soul read anybody, you know what I'm saying? Let's see here. See a small raise, which is fine. We go ahead and call in the cutoff. Flop comes off, kind of garbage for everybody. I decided to go ahead and bet and just bet big. My thinking here was that usually when I go for flop steals, one of the leaks that I have, one of the problems I have, is that I don't consider the fact that I didn't have the raise pre-flop. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm calling in position, so my positional advantage is obviously greater. My nut advantage is greater, meaning I can have all the sets of 7s, 5s, 6s. I can have 8, 9. I can have 4, 3. This player really can't have that because, you know, he's opening. And I mean, yeah, he can have sets, but I think even sets bet this flop because it's so draw heavy. And even a set of 7 should be betting here because, you know, if I have 9, 10 or 8, 9 or ace 8 or you know, ace 4 suited, you know, all those hands, I'm going to continue and you kind of want to charge me. So if I'm him and I have a set, I'm probably actually betting kind of big because players will also think it's bullshit. So they won't draw against you for the wrong price, right? So if you make this 5 blinds to go on the flop, they won't draw against you for the wrong price. But if they have a hand like pocket 9s, pocket 8s, ace 7, you know, the ace 7 could be been suited and been there. You know, any hand that has top pair or better, they're not going to fold. Now, the only real one that you're in trouble with is pocket 8s, but there's a case to be made for raising that or 3-betting that pre-flop, but I don't think it's going to happen much at this level. So I think in this scenario, if I had a set of even 7s, even the top set on the board, if I was in the other player's position, I think I want to bet like 5 big blinds or more because you're either going to draw for the wrong price against me or you're going to pay me now. And think about it. What does somebody do if they have pocket 8s or 9s here? Don't they just raise and get it all in, right? Especially a player with 25 blinds. Don't you just get it all in? And then you roll over the set and you're a fucking genius? I think it's reasonable. But we did bet, and so the leak I was talking about is not betting enough. In this particular instance, I actually had the note written down that since I'm going for the steal, I want to make it look like I'm just protecting my hand. Because if I bet small here, it looks like I could have a draw, you know, because there are so many. So why not just bet big? You know, 4.5 is a little smaller because I have a positional advantage on this player. I think if I was out of position, like let's say there was a player here and somebody had raised here and I was here and I wanted to make this play and there was somebody behind me, I would probably go 5, 5.5. But with a positional advantage, this bet plays bigger. So I just bet bigger for no reason. Not no reason, but for all those reasons. And it works. And we win the pot. And we just make a quick end to it. And this is one where this isn't like having ace 9, you know, or ace 10. And like, well, our ace is going to stand up a lot of the time. True. But this is one where you have almost no showdown value. And we need the deck to improve us. And like I always say, man, you never want to rely on the deck to win you hands. You do that, you're gambling. You should exhibit more control. Ace King offsuit. 10.5 blinds. We see a call here in the big blind. Flop comes off, and we decide to go ahead and just check it behind. This is the exact example. Ace King has a lot more showdown value than a lot of other hands. When we both have an ace, nobody has a pair, I win. This is the nut low, or nut high low. Nut low high? So it goes check, check. He decides to go ahead and bet the turn. There's really nothing here for him to bet except for a 10. I don't know if a lot of players are smart enough to bet an 8 here. And I think if they are betting an 8, you're either betting really big or really small. This half pot bet just doesn't mean anything. So I took a few seconds and then I considered all that and then I called. And then the river comes off a queen. Not a great card for us. But this bet again. This bet again. It's a half pot bet. It's a lazy bluff. It's, oh, look, there's a half pot bet button. Click. Like, there's no thought put into it. There's no nuance to it. It's a clumsy bet. It's oafish. So it doesn't make sense. So I decided to go ahead and make the call here. And yeah, guy picked up he flopped a gut shot. You know, the queen coming on the river is kind of good for him. If he hadn't bet the whole time and then just bet the river big out of position, I'd probably just fold. Because if he checks an 8 on the turn, like I'm just going to check back here, right? And there's only like 6 blinds in the pot. If the river comes off and there's 6.5 in the pot and he bets like 5.5, I just fold. It's fine. But he just set himself up to get bluffed and lose way more. And this was a really nice call. And when I talk about hero calls, this is how you hero call. You still want to have a hand that reasonably can win at showdown. There are times when I make hero calls with far less, but it makes more sense this way. And remember, he can have the whole deck. He was in the big blinds, so there was really no point in trying to bully this hand at any point. We just let him come to us, and he did. And, you know, our stack sizes are a great influence because all these other players on the table, look at this. The average chip stack at this point, I think, is about 30 blinds, and we have quite a few short stacks. We're the big stacks. And for some reason, he's playing this move against the only other stack at the table who could eliminate him. It really is poorly thought out. So let's see here. 10 jack off. We see a raise. We go ahead and 3-bet from the button. I like doing this sometimes. I did want to run this one. So let's check it out first. So we're at like 80 big blinds on the button. I don't do enough 3-betting early in tournaments with less than premium hands. So we're the effective stack with about 80. The other player is in the cutoff hijack low jack versus a raise from the opponent's position of low jack. So 10 jack off is a call 4% of the time and a fold 96% of the time. Interesting. Now, it is very early, so I would fudge the numbers a little and play a little more aggressive, but that's obviously a fold here on the button. 80 big blinds on the button versus... Because of the reverse implied odds is really the reason. But I'm really playing it for a steal, and this was that situation that we talked about in yesterday's Wake Up With Me, where one of the quizzes was this guy who came to the table and was table captain. This guy had gotten to the table just like shortly ago, and I was the table captain, thank you very much. But he decided to start raising very frequently and seemed to be too weak post-flop. Like, he wasn't really making the steals post-flop, so I felt like he was just trying to steal pre-flop and then kind of being very passive post. So for me, this was an opportunity to shut someone down, and I went ahead and did that. And it works. You know, we get the call, and the flop comes off, and he checks, and we just go ahead and bet. Standard C-bet. This is just like the hand we reviewed yesterday, where Gripst had 9-8 suited on the button versus the table captain. I decided to go ahead and do it, and it worked. So I think even though the hand is trash, and it's a fold almost 100% of the time and a call only 4% of the time, I think positionally this was important because it shut that player down, and he did back off quite a bit after that. Interestingly, it's a call here. Jack 10 suited is a call 93% of the time and a 3-bet 7% of the time. It's never a fold. But Jack 10 offsuit is a call only 4% of the time and a fold 96% of the time. That's fucking crazy. So shows you how different it is being suited versus unsuited. Makes a complete trash hand playable. But in this one, we're just playing for our position and to steal on the flop. So interesting nuance. See a raise on the button. We go ahead and defend. We're both super deep. It goes check, check, flop. Check, check, turn. River player bets half pot. Again, lazy bet. And I thought about it, and I was like, well, he's going to have an ace a lot. That's fine. Maybe he's taking a free shot at the bluff. It's probably the worst version of that I saw. He was just trying to be cool and get away with this bluff and then show us the 7 deuce. But here's the thing. If I have 5-4 here, you didn't do anything. If I have king queen here, you didn't do anything. No, I'm sorry. I'm calling with king queen. If I have queen 10 here, you didn't do anything. Like, this is just a jackass who's raising for really just to show off on the button. Oh, I can raise. Well, when you have 100 fucking big blinds, yes, you can raise anything you want on the button, but you're playing against the guy who can hurt you. I can take you out of the tournament. You don't want to fuck with me and piss me off. And he didn't. I just got to laugh in his stupid face because he doesn't understand how that works. Like, he would have had to have bet flop and turn, then I fold. But he just doesn't have that in him, you know? You can probably just bet the turn and I fold, right? Because my hand is such trash. But I was only checking because I had the ace on the turn because I felt like I had enough showdown value. And look at that, I was right. So that's another one where hero calling based on the relative strength of our hand, because let's go back here for a sec. So on the river here, 61% of the time we're going to have the best hand. This is not a spot where you want to be bluffing, right? High card beats you. You know, high card calls here. Aces and kings call here. You know, if I have ace king or king queen or even king deuce, doesn't fucking matter. And my high card plays, I'm calling here with the ace or the king if I believe, rightly so, that I would win this pot more times than not. And honestly, it's going to be about 60% with the ace, and it's going to be about 50% with the king. So we'll have to see. But getting better than 3-1 on my money because it's a chop now. Pretty good. Aces again. I don't remember these aces. I try to forget aces very quickly. So we make a min raise. We get called in the next spot, and the other player over here. Oh, this is the Boski. This is why this hand is tagged. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you, if you do not know, to the Boski. The Boski is a very good poker player. If you want to see some impressive records, look up his micro win rate, meaning buy-ins of, what is it, $10 and below, I think is micro. The dude's won like 80 grand in the last 5 years playing micros. It's fucking bananas. He's the micro master. I'm including this hand because yesterday he was not on his best game. He really wasn't. And everything he did fucked me up because he was doing the wrong things at the right time and getting lucky. And it was really aggravating. So I go ahead and c-bet simple. We see a raise, okay? And the Boski has 14 blinds. He's very tight at this point, and here's the thing. He can still fold. This is near starting stack. Look at these stacks. Like, he has 14 blinds. The Boski is not one to freak out. You know what I'm saying? He can Hellmuth it. He can have very few chips and be very patient for a very long time. I've seen him do this, and he really is brilliant with it, where he'll wait and wait and wait and wait and wait, and then pick the exact right moments to play his bluffs, to keep his stack in play, and to put himself in a position to double up and get back in it. He's very talented, you know, and he's very educated. And I would dare to say he's a better player than me. You know what I'm saying? I think it's close, but I think just because of his bankroll and all like that, I think he's going to beat me in the short term, long term. Like over the next year, he's going to beat me for sure. He's going to make more money. If I get a proper bankroll, we'll see. But then he jams here. This is not a good jam spot. You have to do some mental gymnastics to think this is a good jam spot. You have to think that I'm c-betting with ace-king, and that this player knows that, and he's raising me without a good hand. You know what I'm saying? So you have to think I'm full of shit. This player realizes that and is raising me to steal, and then you jam to do the same thing at a greater level. That is some serious mind backflips. Of course, we go ahead and just rip-a-dip it all in, and we actually get overcalled here. And let's go ahead and show you right now. So 6-7 has 27% equity. The queens have 8%, and I have 65%. And this only has 27% because of the backdoor heart and flush draws, or flush draws and straight draws. So we get all the monies in, and now it's looking pretty good. But 7 hits the river. And this is the kind of bullshit that pissed me off. And here's the thing. It wouldn't have aggravated me to such an extent. I'm seeing, obviously, like, losing this pot kind of sucks. But, I did win the side. So it didn't hurt me too bad. But the truth of the matter is, like, I actually want to see, like, let's see those aces here. I think I didn't even lose hardly anything. Yeah, it was this one. I lost 2,200 chips, and I had like 14,000 at the time, so I got knocked down to like 12,000, right? Yeah, I got knocked down to like 12,000 from 14,000, so it wasn't huge, but this 22,000 is fucking huge because that probably propels me super far. And the crazy part is, Boski didn't cash this one. I watched him go out. He made so many bad plays from here. He actually went out, and at one point we were even in chips, and then he got eliminated. And I just kept taking fucking beats. It was really frustrating. But it was just a day where he was playing badly, and I ended up, you know, getting caught in the crossfire. So it was very frustrating, but that shit's gonna happen, you know, and it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. He really is great. And if you haven't seen his channel, man, check out the Boski on YouTube. Makes excellent vlogs. We raise under the gun. This player 3-bets. Obviously, it's not awesome. But let's go ahead and do the math. We have 30 big blinds under the gun. 30 big blinds under the gun versus a raise. Raising first in, we're supposed to raise the ace-queen off, of course. Raise first in versus a 3-bet, excuse me, from, what is that, the cutoff hijack low jack versus the opponent's low jack 3-bet. Now, he is in third position, but it's also the low jack because we're short-handed. Ace queen off is an all-in 10% of the 9% of the time. It's a call 83% of the time. It's a fold 8% of the time. So it's a call 83% of the time. So we obviously do the right thing, even though he made a kind of bigger raise. Oh, wait a minute. It's an all. I went all in. Oh, this isn't the one I was thinking of. Okay. So it's an all-in 9% of the time. Now, here's the thing. Let's do the math on the other side. We're the effective stack for 30 big blinds, right? So if you have 30 big blinds in the low jack, if we're this guy, what are we 3-betting with? Versus a raise from the opponent under the gun. What are we 3-betting with? We're 3-betting with the ace-queen 50-50. So we 3-bet 45% of the time, we call 55% of the time. That's cool. We're also 3-betting aces, ace-king. Boski and I are from the same city. Only the best players are from Westland, Michigan. Yeah, that Westland, Michigan to Vegas pipeline is a real thing. I thought some of the best players came from Florida, but I guess that's just me and Michael Mizrachi, right? Oh, and like 75 other people. But these are the only hands that 3-bet. Versus a proper range, our jam isn't great. But now let's go back to it. 30 big blinds versus a 3-bet all-in from, we'll just call it big blind because we're just looking for something here. The ace-queen off is a call there. We 3-bet all, or it's a 4-bet. Oh, versus a 4-bet all-in from the opponent's position of under the gun. Should he be calling with the ace-queen off? Only 35% of the time. See what I'm saying? This is the way solvers work. They go, well, you're supposed to do this, then if this happens, you do this. It's the quality that come from Westland that makes it what it is. Oh, that's hilarious. So his call isn't great. It's okay. It's 35% call. I think my jam is good. Let's do my numbers. I'm 30 big blinds under the gun. Under the gun here. Versus a 3-bet from the low jack. What am I supposed to do? Well, I'm supposed to call it 83% of the time and be all in 9% of the time. So maybe this is a mistake by me, but now that's the GTO thing. So we know that I'm supposed to open. Cool. He's supposed to raise with the ace-queen off in his range, right? Here's a spoiler. We saw this already, but he has ace-queen off. So he's supposed to 3-bet, and then I made the first technical GTO mistake by just calling, or by jamming here, because just calling is the move you're supposed to make 83% of the time. But this is where you stray from GTO, because the point of GTO is to break even. You have so many right moves down that you break even, and then you make money when you stray from GTO to an exploitative style, based on that, or coming off of that base, right? So in perfect GTO, I should have just called, but this was an opportunity, I thought, to make an exploitative move, because my hand looks so much stronger, and this player was 3-betting way too much. Like, I don't know if the HUD stats are going to reflect it. Let's see here. I don't know if the HUD stats are going to reflect it. Yeah, he was 3-betting 14% of the time, which is a lot. Like, he was 3-betting way more than everybody else. That's over 87 hands. That means in 87 hands, he had a VPIP of 23, which means he was playing a ton of hands. Pre-flop raise of 20, which is a lot. And then, 3-betting 14% of the time. Compared to me, which in this exact tournament, we had 130 hands. My VPIP is only 19, which is reasonable. My pre-flop raise is only 13, very reasonable. It's a little snug, but, a lot of my hands come from the big blind where I make my big moves. And then my 3-betting percentage is only 8%, because we're not that far into this tournament. You know what I'm saying? So I felt like he was being overly aggressive, and he was. And he had a fold to 3-bet ratio of 40%, which isn't small. You know what I'm saying? Your fold to 3-bet ratio should be somewhere around 30, maybe 25%. But this is obviously for all in, you know what I'm saying? He didn't c-bet the flop very much. This also tells me that he's kind of passive after these opens, so he's opening too wide. He does turn c-bet 100% of the time. So here's the thing: if he bets the flop, he bets the turn, but he only bets the flop very rarely. If he checks the flop, he bets the turn. This is 100%. You know what I'm saying? So he's always betting the turn. This to me tells me somebody who's raising too much and then afraid to continue. So what are you afraid to continue with? Substandard hands, out of position, doing shit like that. And he folds to the c-bet on the flop half the time, and then folds the c-bet on the turn 100% of the time. It's really kind of very telling that he is overplaying hands. In this exact scenario, he had the hand that could do all these actions and be correct. But this is the only hand he can do that with. The only other hands he should call here have me crushed. This is the absolute bottom of hands he should call here, and he was overplaying. I think we get a call here from ace-jack suited. I know we get a call from any pair, jacks on down. Even king-queen suited, believe it or not, from a player like this. So I really love my play here. It would have been very easy to just call, and, then the flop would have been queen high, and we would have just, gotten it in. He might have even beat me, you know what I'm saying? He might have even got me off of it, but I could have gotten him off of it too. But I think from a pre-flop standpoint with 30 big blinds, I really love the way I played this. I was 100% correct until I decided to go off script and jam versus an overly aggressive player, which I think is important. So, a little complicated, but makes sense in the end. We see an open in the button, and I go for the 3-bet, and we just get the fold. I only put this in here just as a reminder kind of to myself that I need to do these more often, and I wanted to run this to reinforce that. So 40 big blinds, this is just for me. 40 big blinds in the small blind versus an open from the button. I wanted to make sure I know the range. Ace-7 suited is a call in for 40 bigs. Look at this. It's a call 32% of the time. It's actually an all-in the rest of the time. I'm just supposed to jam this. Like, this is the stuff I don't know. Like, this is fascinating to me. Like, the solvers say that it's better to just jam this hand than it is to 3-bet with it. That's crazy. Like, the 3-bet hands have to be stronger. Ace-ace, ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack suited, ace-10 suited, kings, queens, jacks, tens. But the power hands, ace-king off, that make one pair, one pair power hands, and hands that bluff with the best equity are jams. 10-9 suited for 40 bigs. God, I hope I get to the point where I'm good enough to make that jam for 40 bigs. That's crazy. So I like the steal. Obviously, the jam would have worked, but it's just interesting that that's what the solver says. But this is just for me, and I wanted to look it up because I know this is a nuanced spot that I don't recognize often enough. And calling with King 8 suited, I'd probably 3-bet that, honestly. The first 3-bet is King Queen suited, really. I mean, King King, obviously. But King Queen suited is really the first 3-bet of a non-ace hand. 3-betting Ace 10 suited. I mean, that doesn't count. So King Queen suited. King Jack off 3-bet. That makes sense to me because the hand isn't strong enough to flop with. You know what I mean? King 10 off. Interesting. There's not a lot of 3-bets here. When I'm looking for 3-bets, I look for the great majority. Ace 7 off here is a 3-bet 62% of the time and a call 38% of the time. That's the majority. I'm probably going to 3-bet it. But look at Ace 8 off. It's 52% 3-bet, 48% call. That's 50-50, man. Like, that's just going to depend on my mood. Ace 9 off, 100% 3-bet. Interesting. There's very few 100% 3-bets that aren't pairs. Yeah, there's only the suited aces. Yeah. The suited aces and King Jack off. It's about as close as we get. Interesting. That's just for me. I'm sorry. I'm kind of fascinated by that. And I think it bears looking at. Interesting. 8-7 suity. We see a raise. I decided to go ahead and just call. I could have 3-bet this one. I'm pretty sure. I mean, now but he's only got 17 blinds, so I can't. Okay. That's fine. We decided to go ahead and call. Player checks. And we decide to bet because he is just so short stacked. And he does call. The turn comes off. And I remember this one. This was later and deeper in the tournament. And this pot was kind of important. So he calls us on the flop. Which, if you use your mind, you can say, well, he never has a jack. Because he would just get it in. He would just check raise jam on us, right? He can have a flush draw sometimes. He can also have hands like pocket 8s, pocket 9s, pocket 7s. You know what I'm saying? Hands that don't want to fold to one bet. We go ahead and bet the turn. He does call. Now this kind of convinces me that he has some kind of draw. I felt like he had maybe a club draw. I didn't think he had the heart draw, honestly. And the river comes off and he checks. And I don't want to get, I don't want to give him the pot with ace 4 of clubs, which could definitely call this flop and turn. And because I have no showdown value, so I just put him in. And with 5 blinds left, he folded. Like, if he has an ace in his hand, he should probably always call, right? Because folding here just eliminates you from the tournament, pretty much. Calling, you're only calling for a chop, but you only have to be right 1 in 6 times to make it profitable. Or, sorry, 1 in 3 times, because you're only going to get half the pot to make the call profitable if it's a chop. But there are instances where it isn't a chop, where I'm just straight bluffing you. And in that case, so you're probably getting, the real value is probably about 1 in 4, or 4 to 1, or 4.5 to 1 on your money. So if you went this far with ace 4 of clubs, probably should have just jammed the turn. Because it's so few chips, like if I'm bluffing, I can still call you. You know what I'm saying? Like 8-7 suited here on the turn, if he jams for 5 big blinds after I raise, I can still call. Like, as stupid as it sounds, I kind of have to. You know what I'm saying? Because it would cost me 6 big blinds to win 31 big blinds. So it's like, if he's ever doing it with a draw, even the ace king of, or ace 4 of clubs, the best draw in the world, even the 4-5 of clubs, or no, let's give him ace 4 of clubs, because that actually beats me in a showdown. I can still call, because 1 in 6 times I'm going to hit that river 8 or 7 that isn't a club. Got to go to work for a bit. If you're playing later tonight, I'll stop by. All right, Nike, I might play later. I kind of doubt it. Yesterday was very busy, and usually I do a lot of editing on Mondays. But it's possible. We'll see, my man. I'm probably just going to edit all day today, though. Check out the YouTube for more content. So we go ahead and raise. We have 20 big blinds. I think this is better than just open ripping. We see a call on the button and a call on the big blind. Kind of interesting. We flop probably the best flop for us. And I said in game, I'm going to play this like Trip Kings. So I just went ahead and checked it. I decided to bet the turn. And I decided to bet the turn big because once we check the flop, a lot of players think that we're full of shit and we don't have a king. That's exactly what we're going for here. So betting small on the turn, it looks like he flopped trip kings. He's only betting small. But if we bet big, nobody's betting with a monster here big. The truth is there's more monsters than you think there are. You know, there's kings here and aces here. Yeah, those are monsters. Trip kings and pocket aces. But ace king is a fucking monster here. I'm going to win this one the vast majority of the time. So betting big makes sense to throw the scent off the monster. If I bet 2.5 big blinds here on the turn, it just looks so fucking strong after checking the flop and raising pre-flop and then betting into 3 players. But betting big looks like, you know what? I don't think anybody has a king. Fuck them. And I'm just going to bet big. That's what these other players think you're doing. So when you bet big like that, you actually entice calls from hands worse than yours. We do see a call, and the ace on the river. I'm not afraid of the diamonds, but the ace on the river just gives me so much of the board. It's like, what do you do? I decided to check. Now, if the ace hadn't hit the river, I was probably going to jam because I felt like I was getting hero called. And when I checked, the player took an exceedingly long time to check. Like, it was a really long time, I remember. And I was thinking, God, please bluff at me. Please bluff at me. Because I knew he's bluffing if he bets. But the only bet left is all in. So he has to pretty much put me to the test. And I'm snap calling. You know what I'm saying? If the ace hadn't hit, I think he does it. Because my hand can look like I had ace queen. And now I rivered the ace. And I'm not going to fold right at this price. Eventually he did check. And I was so fucking proud of this hand. Because I gave him every opportunity to double me up. Which is what I needed at the time. I was really proud of that hand. I played it really well. Jack 10 off. Man, making a bunch of features here. Oh, I just wanted to run this one. So I'm in the cutoff for 14 big blinds. And this is deep in that other tournament. Hey, that's not the right thing. Jack 10 off, 14 big blinds in the cutoff. So how many blinds? We'll say 15 in the cutoff. Raise first in. Jack 10 off. It's a raise. It's not a jam. What is it at 12 big blinds? Because we're at 13 and a half. We're right in the middle. All right, it's an all-in 62% of the time. So I should be jamming here about 40% of the time total, I would say. All right, that's cool. We get any calls? Yeah, we did. Look at that. And King Jack. And we went out of that one. The King Jack isn't a call, though. I don't think it is. I think that's the other part of why I want to do this. From the small blind for 12 big blinds effective versus an all-in. Other opponent's position is the cutoff. So this is his perspective. King Jack off is a call 100% of the time for 12 big blinds. It's a fold for 15. Yeah, so I'd say it's 50-50. Call or fold here. Interesting. Because I had 13 and a half big blinds. So glad I looked that up. Pocket ochos. This was interesting. So we see a raise out of first. I'm in the big blind. Small blind goes all in for 7.6. I decide the hand's too strong to fold but too weak to raise. So I took some time and then I just called. This should look super strong to my opponent. Now, he's raising out of first. If you have something like kings or queens here, you should probably just jam because my hand looks super strong. And you're going to get 3-1 on this bet. The only hand that should call here is aces. I really believe that. Even ace-king should rejam. I think pocket jacks should rejam. All the way down to pocket jacks is the bottom. But the only hand that can call here, honestly, is aces. We see a call. The flop comes off deuce 5-5. We decide to go ahead and check it to him. He bets very small. This could literally be range. So we decide to go ahead and call. Turn comes off a jack, and for some reason, my head was going, don't let a jack hit the turn. I think I said it before the river came down because a jack seems so bad for me. And plus, only 4 big blinds of this are in the main pot, right? The rest is on the side, so I'm really not missing out because I have to beat the showdown here. And the jack is just the worst card in that scenario versus either him or him. On the turn, he bets 1/3 pot. Honestly, if it hadn't have been a jack, I'm going to tell you that I would have called. I just, for some reason, a jack just seemed like the worst possible card for me because I felt like this player is going to have it a ton, and it's the perfect card to come off to improve this player. So I don't like jamming on the flop because I think we can be up against overpairs, but I felt like the jack was just so bad for the main pot, which is 27 of these blinds are in the main pot, or it's like 23 of these blinds are in the main pot versus the side. Only like 5 of these are on the side pot from my investment. So it's a good spot to fold. We were deep in this tournament. This kind of hurt, but I felt like I had to fold it. And as you'll see, it ended up being a great spot. And I was right in both instances. The jack was bad for me, right? And the player had aces. But aces is the only hand you can play that way. You can do it with kings. You can do it with queens. With kings or queens, you're going to want to just jam because I can have hands like ace, king, ace, queen. And you want to get all the money in there and play a really big pot. That's cool. But aces, you can actually call here pre-flop when I just call the small blinds 3-bet all in versus you're under the gun open. Aces is the only one. And when I'm up against just one hand in the deck that should play that way, I'm never going to fold to it for 1 bet. So I had to see 2 bets. I called the flop one and then folded the turn one. And, just for funsies, if the jack hadn't come and I had called the 11 big blinds or gotten it all in, because honestly, if like a 7 comes on the turn, I think he's betting bigger and I'm going all in. Actually, he might even bet the same. He might not even be thinking about this. He has all the nut heart advantage, heart and diamond cards, so there's very few draws out there. So his hand is so powerful. But honestly, the jack kind of saved my tournament, because I would have been all in here, right? Why can't I play bad? This pot would have been 73 big blinds. If I had played bad, I would have rivered it. Like, he raised, and there is a world, like, here's the thing. There is a world where this player raises under the gun, right? It goes all the way around to the small blind. He jams, and I rejam, right? Now, I need a solver to fucking figure this out, but I'm going to go ahead and do this. The effective stack of 8 big blinds, so let's just call it 10. I'm in the big blind versus all in from the small blind. 8s are a call for sure. I don't know how you figure this out without Pio Solver, and I don't have it. So I think there's a world in which I just jam this for 38 blinds and crack aces and go on and win the tournament. That being said, I did everything right. Did everything right except win. Ace 8 suited. We go ahead and raise on the button, and we see a jam, and we just fold. I did want to run this one. This is we're getting deeper in this tournament, so 20 big blinds on the button. Raise first in. Ace 8 suited is a raise. It's not a jam. Cool. I never thought it was a jam. On the button versus a 3-bet all in for 20 big blinds. Opponent's position, small blind. Ace 8 suited is a call. Made a mistake. It's a call, 100%. Made a mistake. Okay, I don't know those spots as well as I should. I know that about myself. I also don't err on that side, but, if it was earlier in the tournament, yeah, but we were deep. King, queen suited. Very short here in this tournament. Goes check. Player bets one big blind. I decide to call it. There's literally no hand I should fold for that price. Goes check, check. River comes off. We decide to check. Player bets us all in. We fold. He obviously had his beat. He just had his crush the whole time. But there's no hand I should fold. I looked this one up. I did the math on this one after. There's no hand I should fold for one big blind on the flop. Anything that connects in any kind of way. Aces. Raised. Two big blinds were called. We only have 12 big blinds to get in, so it's pretty good. I decided to check the flop. Player bets at us. I took a little time and then called. Turn comes off. We go check, check. River, I decide to bet super small. Player does fold. I just had this board smashed, man. Like you can see before I make the river bet, versus the deck, I'm 95% to win. I mean, even on this flop, it's 90%. Like, I'm so far ahead the whole time. Like, there's never a point. This is like flopping fucking a full house. Like, I may as well have flopped trip tens. It's the same basic run out, strength. So I think I got the most out of it. This one kind of bothered me yesterday, but maybe I could have check raised the flop. Maybe he has some kind of draw, but I have the ace of clubs, so I think it was fine. Raise the king, queen, get a call. I remember this one. This is fucking hilarious. So flop comes down. We decide to go ahead and bet. Standard C-bet. We set a long pause and then a call. This is my mistake. I should have just bet here if I'm going to keep betting. I decided to check because the king is going to win a lot. The ace on the river I knew was bad for me, but also there's not a lot of hands that should have just called pre-flop and that have an ace in them. Like, except for exactly ace 10, like ace jack is the only other one, but that folds on the flop. I don't understand what the hand is that called me pre-flop that has an ace in it. Ace 3 suited maybe, but this player was so passive, I think he just gives it up, pre-flop. So I went for the bluff, and this bluff is proper at this point in the tournament. We're so far in. Like, we were down to like 14 or 15 players at this point. And this player did call me, and I'm absolutely shocked when I see the ace-queen. How do you not 3-bet me? And, yeah, it was just a very poorly played hand by him. I like my bet better on the turn. I think if I bet here and I didn't have to bet huge. I realized it later that I was thinking I would have to bet like 8 big blinds. I don't. I could, and I think it's more effective just to jam straight in. Next time around, I think that's what I'll do. But I think I could have just bet the same bet I bet on the river, 5.5 to 6 big blinds, and this guy just folds because it looks like we're walking the dog. It looks like we just have a big pair or a 10, and we're just gonna bet and get all the money in. So yeah, that was the end of it. That tournament yesterday was super exciting. It was the 10K guaranteed. I ended up going out in the bubble of the final table, like 12th or 11th or something like that. So next jump was the final table. And in the end, it was the story of the night where I got it in and got 3 outed. That happened like 8 times in that tournament after we were in the money. It was pretty sick. It was really pretty sick. So as you can hear, my voice is very much so worn down from the week. On Mondays, I like to do a lot of editing and not talk very much. And I did have like an 8-hour stream yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thanks you guys for coming out. Stick around for the host. I honestly don't know who I'm hosting yet, but it'll happen right after the stream ends. It was a great time. I may play later, but I kind of doubt it. I think I'm going to take a day to edit. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Check out the YouTube if you want some more content. And, maybe I'll come back and we'll do some Hearthstone or something just to chill. Do a just chatting if I need a break. So see you later, guys. If I don't come back later, I'll see you tomorrow, same time, for the Wake Up With Me stream. Have a good day.